Hey, what's up, boys and girls? This is 3D Bonfire back with an amazing tutorial. And this time I'm really excited to talk about the new soft body capabilities of Cinema 4D 2023. Alright, so let's have some fun. And we will build something like this, okay? So I built this ring here. It's made of glass, so you can see all of these beautiful soft body subsurface jellies inside of it, rotating gently around it. And then I have this more dense area here where the jellies need to condense. They are really packed closely to each other and they are stretched, and I think it just looks lovely, okay? Just look at this beautiful movement here. These soft bodies, they look so beautiful. And I know I sound like an idiot to say this about my own work, but I am just happy about the soft body tools in Cinema 4D 2023 because they are just way more usable and stronger, faster, and you can just be more creative with it, okay? So just look here, I just pause it and you can see this beautiful movement here. I mean, it's so... I'm sorry, but I think it's awesome, all right? Okay. And then here they will really get close to each other, and then they will get bigger again when they are released out of this dense area, all right? And yes, I mean, this is the project that we will build together in this tutorial, but I think I will also split it into two parts because I also have a Patreon page for my channel 3D Bonfire, okay? And I think there I will give you a second part where I will go more into the details and I will play with different settings and make it really beautiful. But here on YouTube, of course, you will also get some cool stuff. So I will show you the basic setup, how to build that stuff, and it will still be really interesting. And I hope you will get some benefits out of it, okay? And one last thing, you can also follow me on Instagram. It's Markus3D. If you want to just see my latest stuff and be up to date with my new tutorials and artworks, then this will be the right place for you, okay? And now I think I already talked too much about it in the intro. Let's just dive into Cinema 4D and have some fun. Alright, finally in Cinema 4D, and I already fired up a new scene, got rid of the work plane because I think it's just a little bit distracting. And now let's think about how can we build that stuff, okay? So one option would be to just grab a torus, or I also call it a donut object, okay? And maybe one thing, I already talked about it in the last tutorial, where I talked about the new simulation tools in Cinema 4D 2023. But one thing that is really important is to work in a reasonable scale, okay? So that, for example, would be a good scale to make a soft body simulation. But something like this, I wouldn't recommend it because the gravity and the turbulence, everything will just react in a different manner to these huge objects, okay? So just stay to a reasonable size. I mean, it's up to you, and of course you can make bigger simulations, but for me something like this works, or maybe even something like this, okay? Just in relation to a human figure, that feels reasonable, okay? And of course, when you make it small, like a donut, then this would also be a good simulation, and the factors and the forces will just react a little bit differently, okay? But for now, I would say I will work in something like this. And now let's think about what I did in my video, okay? Because if you can remember, then you will see that my object, now we want to use this donut object, but in my case, you can see that this one is getting thinner here. So we get that little hotspot where it is getting more dense and the soft bodies will be just pushed together. And I think that's just more interesting. So let's think about how can we adjust this object to make it more interesting. And maybe you know how to do this. I think you could use some of the deformation objects here, but I think a better solution to build that object would be to maybe use a circle. All right, I will just move this one over here and let's just put it on the floor, for example. I will just give it more segments because you can see that this is quite edgy here. Okay, so I will just put this one to 100 and let me think about it. So I guess we could use something like a cylinder. All right, and we could put this one to a height of 500. I think that's not really important. Give it more segments along the rotation and give it more height segments. Put this one to 100, for example. Then I will get rid of the caps. All right. And then I will go to the deformation objects and I will hold down Shift and click on the spline wrap. All right. So the spline wrap is a child of the cylinder. This is the wrong axis, so put this one to Y, and then in the spline we put the circle, for example. Now you would have this ring element, and now we could go to rotation. All right, let's just see. Okay, no, of course, this is the wrong parameter. I think we should go to the size. I'm sorry. All right. Okay, so this is more interesting. So I think we could make a point in the middle. All right, roughly in the middle. Let's control click here and there and just move this point down. All right, and you already can see that we get this more condensed area here. Now I think I just want to move this point over and this one also. All right, just make this a bit more elegant. Maybe I will grab these handles here and do something like this. Could also move this handle and this one to make it just a bit more gentle. All right. Maybe I even will move these ones over to make it more gradually. Okay, something like this. I think now it is really dense here, so I will just move this point up again to build something like this. Okay, so this is a good start. And now we need to clone into this object. Okay, so I think a good idea is to click on the cylinder, put this one to X-rays so we can see in the inside. And I will also create a material, put it on the cylinder. And I think we can make this one darker so we can even see better into the inside. Okay, we want to have some soft body jellies inside of it, and therefore I think a sphere would be a good option. And we just clone this one radial into this object. So let's just grab a cloner, put the sphere into the cloner, and let's set this one to radial, for example. Or, you know what, we could also go to object mode and clone onto the circle. Okay, I think that would be an even more clean solution. Now we will put this one to 20. Okay, so now these spheres are inside of my glass donut. Okay. And I think what I also want to change is the tessellation of these spheres. Okay, so the type is set to standard, but I think then we will get some poles here and on the bottom. So a better solution would be to go maybe to hexahedron. Now this is all quads. That could be maybe a better solution, or you can also go with icosahedron. Now you have triangles. I'm not so sure if triangles will be so great if you put it into a subdivision surface to get it more smooth. So for now, I think you can use it, but I will just feel more comfortable with all quads. Okay, so now we have these elements inside of this one. All right, and I think now it is finally time to set up the simulation properties of this scene. Okay, so I guess it would be a good idea to first set up these spheres as cloth objects, or better, let's say as soft bodies. All right, so in general you would put the tag onto the sphere, but if you have the sphere in a cloner setup, then you would put the tag onto the cloner. Okay, so I will right click the cloner, go to simulation properties, and for now I will just pin this one here, and then I will just click on soft body. Okay, and maybe just a little explanation here. The soft body tag is more or less, it's the same like the cloth tag. All right, so I will just show this to you. Go to the cloner, set it up as a cloth object. Okay, and if you go into the cloth tag, then you can see that you have this soft body tab here. Okay, so this is the setup for the cloth, but you can just go here to soft body and set it up as soft body. And basically, I think the soft body has just the same simulation as the cloth. All right, but it will add additional constraints. They just call it poles. Okay, and these poles are these lines inside of the object that will prevent the object from folding and will just make it more rigid, but only rigid like a soft body. Okay, but these are constraints that will hold up the shape against outer forces like a turbulence or a wind or whatever. Okay, so they will just prevent the object from folding into itself like a cloth element. And let's just see how this will look. All right, so let's just simulate this. And of course, they will just fall down. Okay, let's just click on our cylinder and let's set this one up as a collider object. Okay, and let's simulate it again, and they will just fall out of the donut, because when we go to our collider tag, you can see the collider side is set to front, which just means it will act as a collider from the outwards. Okay, so let's set this one to inside or back, and now hopefully they will just bounce inside of our element. And I think this already looks really cool. So we have soft body spheres inside of our donut. Okay, and I think we could just make these ones bigger. Okay, so let me just think about it. So we can't make it bigger than this, all right? Because now it will penetrate through it. So I think a better solution would be to just keyframe this one. So for a second, I would just deactivate the cloner, go back to 0, set the radius to 0 and let it run until maybe 30 and set this one up to 40. All right, let's just see what happens. Okay. Obviously, we need to activate the cloner again, and you can see that nothing is happening. All right, so this is the first gotcha that I needed to solve here, and the solution is quite simple. So right now these spheres just don't react to our keyframe animation, okay? And therefore you just go to your tag, all right, and go to mix animation and then say follow the shape, okay? So let's just see what happens now. Alright, and now you can see that these spheres are inflating, and now these ones already, they got caught in this dense area, so hopefully this is not too dense here. Yeah, we will see this if we set up some forces, okay? So let's set up some turbulence maybe first, alright? Let's just go to simulation and let's set up a turbulence, okay? I will just play this, give me more keyframes, maybe 1000. All right, nothing is happening or not so much. So I would just set this one up to 500. I think this is way too much because now when I set up the scale, okay, set this one to 20, set it to 30 or maybe 50. All right, so now these ones, they are moving here and these ones, they are still caught in this area. So I guess to make these ones go through this dense area, I guess we should get rid of the friction maybe. So let's just go to Soft Body, or let's go to the Surface tab and let's get rid of the friction. All right, and now you can see that they don't stick to the outer shell anymore, okay? Or let's just keep this one as a minimum of 0.1. Let's just see what happens. Okay, so now they have some problems to go through this area, but I think overall they can do it. But overall, we need to think about the behavior of our cloths. So first, I think the turbulence is way too hectic. So let's set this one to 200, for example. All right, and you can see that they kind of get destroyed and don't preserve their shape so well. So let's just see if we have this problem also if we go to our icosahedron shape. Okay, let's simulate it once more. And maybe I will just deactivate the visibility of our cylinder to see this better. And all right, they will get stuck here. Okay, so maybe in addition, we should set up our rotation force. But for now, I would just want to work a little bit on the soft body and see it with a turbulence. Okay, so still we have this problem that the shape is collapsing and it just doesn't look that good. Okay, so the problem is not solved by going to icosahedron. So I think it's a better idea with hexahedron, and let's solve this problem. Okay, so maybe in addition to the soft body behavior, maybe we could also inflate it as a balloon. Let's just see if we give this one an overpressure. Let me just go crazy, put it to 5. All right, so now you can see that this is exploding. So that was too much, but maybe we give it an inner pressure like a balloon. So now the soft body will also have an additional pressure, and you can see even when they want to collapse, then they will get inflated. And I think this is a better solution already. And already you can see that working with soft bodies and simulations, you just need to adjust parameters step by step until you get a really pleasing result, okay? So already I think they look way more beautiful, so they don't collapse again. They just act like soft bodies. I think it's a problem that they will get stuck in these areas. So again, I will just go to my soft body, to the surface, and I think I need to get rid of the friction completely. Okay, so they can just go through this area, and already I think this is not looking that bad. But one thing that is distracting me is the overall jitterness of the scene. So when I hold down Control D, then I will go to the simulation tab. All right, and let's just see what happens when we put some damping into the scene. So let me just see, when I put this one to 100, then slowly this will turn into an underwater scene. Okay, so now you will suck so much energy out of it, so barely something is happening. But I think with 2, it's just too hectic for me. So I think we'll just put this one to 10, make it a bit more smooth. All right, so now I think this is already moving a bit more gently. And maybe we will also increase the segments. Let's put this one to 30, for example. And I will also get rid of the lines, okay? So now you can see these soft bodies, they already look quite pleasing, all right? So I think we can make this even more interesting. So inside of the cloner, I think I just want to change the size of these spheres. So let me just duplicate the sphere here. All right, just temporarily deactivate the cloner, go to the end keyframe, and let's say this one is just going to a radius of 30, and I will make another iteration, and this one will just inflate to a radius of 20. Okay, so now we have different spheres in our simulation, and now this already looks more interesting. Okay, I like it, but I think I just want to make them less soft, to be honest. Okay, so I will go to soft body and reduce the softness. Let's just see what happens when we put this one to 0. Just interested what will happen. Okay, I think that was not a good solution. So when I put this one back to 100, I think that just looks better. Let's give it more overpressure, maybe 1.5. Okay, so now you can see the surface overall gets way more smooth. I think I like this one. Okay, so now they look nice and soft, but overall with a nice clean surface. Okay, so I like this one. And maybe we could already just put more spheres into our simulation. Okay, so let's put this one to 20. And of course, now this will get a bit slower. All right, but overall it is working. I think now you have the problem that they will penetrate through each other. Okay, so therefore we should go to Control D to the simulation settings, and you could increase these numbers to get a better simulation. Okay, so I think we have a problem with the collision. Let me just double check this. So let's play the simulation. And yes, some of the spheres will get eaten by other spheres. Okay, so that was not intended. So maybe when I set up the collision passes to 5, then we will get rid of this problem. Let's just see this. So for example, previously this sphere penetrated through the bigger one and got caught inside of it. So now that looks way better. Okay, so 5 seems to solve the problem. And to make the simulation even more stable, I think I want to increase the sub steps maybe to 30. This will make the simulation slower, but it will in most cases make the simulation more clean. Okay, all right. And maybe I should also mention the side effect that when you increase the sub steps, I think also the soft body will get less soft and just a bit more rigid. Okay, but I think in my case this is working as I want it to be. Okay, so I think this already looks quite beautiful. All right, so maybe we just go to our cloner and go crazy and put this one to 30. I think that could work. So just simulate it. All right, and just in the beginning, when you see these ugly edges here, then just go to your form tag and put this one to 180. And of course, later, nothing is holding you back from putting your cloner into a subdivision surface. Okay, so hold down Alt, put it into a subdivision surface. And now you can see that all of these foldings, they get quite beautiful. Okay, so let's just simulate this one. Wow, so now this element is quite densely packed with spheres. All right, let's just increase the turbulence here. Or maybe we put another turbulence, like a smaller scale, and put this one to 260. And the bigger one, I want to have really a big movement, put this one to 400 and the scale to 100. Okay, that was just arbitrary numbers, but I want to see how this is looking. And maybe for now, we just don't simulate it here, but I will click on the tag and go to cache, and I will calculate the cache. I would just go back to frame 0 and calculate it, okay? And this probably will take maybe 2 minutes, okay? So I will just wait for it, or rather just waited for the cache and made a little preview here. So let's just see this one in real time. And man, you can see that the turbulence is super hectic, all right? And in the beginning, I mean, this one, that looks quite interesting. but then it will get to its inflated state, because if you remember, we just keyframed up the volume of it and also set the soft body up as a balloon, so there will be some additional internal pressure. And now you can see that they will fight against the best place in this element. Okay, and they will move from left to the right, and overall this is already quite interesting. But I just set it up with a turbulence. Okay, so if you remember my video here, my final result, then you can see that this is way more gentle. Okay, it's not so erratic like this one, and that there will be this beautiful rotational force here. Okay, but overall we are on a good way to a final result. We are missing the rotation force, we just have some turbulence. Okay, yes, definitely we need to suck some energy out of this simulation, and we can do this, as you already know, Control D. If we go to our simulation settings, with the damping we can make this way more gentle. You remember when I put this one to 100, then it already feels like something that is underwater, because so much energy is sucked out of the system. So I guess it would be a good idea to go up with the samples, with the damping, or maybe just decrease the strength of these turbulence elements. And in addition, we need some rotation force. Okay, but honestly, I don't want to make this YouTube video too long, so I would just give you a hint here on what you could do, because when you go to the simulation forces, then all of these forces, they will work in conjunction with your cloner setup here. So maybe just as a little hint, I will just show you 1 or 2 next steps, but then without making this video too long, I will continue this in an in-depth tutorial on Patreon. Okay, so for now, let's just go to the cache here, and I will just clear the cache. And for now, just to make this more faster, I would just put this one to 10, and let's simulate this again. So hopefully we are back to something like real time, almost real time, and you can see our beautiful jellies here, our soft balloons inside of our element. They just fly as we already noticed. So when I get rid of the turbulence, again, they will just fall down. And of course, this is because when you hold down Control D, go to the scene, then there is our gravity. So when we get rid of the gravity, they will just levitate and do almost nothing. But this is giving this like a little push. Okay, so this is also interesting. Just look at this one. Okay, so I just like it. But I think I still want to keep some of the gravity, so they will fall down. And now let's just try to put in, for example, a rotation force. Okay, and I think the rotation force is rotating around the z-axis, this one. So it will go like this. Okay, so I think this will be definitely wrong. Okay, so you can see it tries to rotate around this axis. That doesn't make any sense. So you could rotate this one, put it to a 90-degree angle. Oh, I think I missed this one, 90 degrees. All right, and now hopefully this will move along the axis. Let's just see this a bit better. Let's put this one to 500. All right, and you can see that the rotation is going crazy, because this is so much of an angle speed. Okay, so I would just put this one to 100 and put this one to 50. All right, so overall, this is doing its thing. So now you can see it is trying to push it here, and this is getting stuck. So this could already be quite interesting. Maybe we should also go to our cylinder and get rid of the friction. All right, the rotation is not strong enough. Put it to 100. Let's try this again. Okay, it looks pretty ugly in the beginning, but now you can see, yes, they try to push through the dense area, and let's just double check it. So here it is getting more dense. All right, looks already quite interesting. So once again, let's just put this one maybe to 20. I just want to see it in real time. And therefore I would just go to my spheres and put these ones to 25, so it will even calculate faster. Okay, super ugly in the beginning. And now they will be pushed through this area here. Okay, these ones, they get pretty small. All right, they barely have place in the system, because these are just huge, and press this one to a minimal volume. But overall, you could already have a system that works like this one. I would just make a last cache of this one and compare it to our final result, okay? So let's go back here and cache this one. And maybe before I do that, I would just mix maybe one of these turbulences inside of the system. Let me just double check this one. So we have turbulence and a rotation. So now this is getting pretty mad here. All right, I would just one last time go to Control D, simulation, and maybe we want to really dampen this. And also I will increase the segments to give us more wrinkles and just more resolution in the system. And maybe let's just change one last factor, the softness. I think I want to decrease it to 50. All right, so let's just see the result. I'm just playing, okay? So let's go to the cache and calculate the cache for 400 frames, all right? Let's calculate it. All right, so I cached the scene and again, it took around 2 minutes and then I made this little preview here. So let's just see how this is looking. And already this is looking more elegant, more smooth. I think one factor that comes into play is that I increased the damping of the scene. So that was in the global scene settings and we put it up to 40. All right, so you can see this is this parameter. And of course we decreased the strength of the turbulence and we put in the rotation force to get this overall rotation movement here. All right, so I think already this is quite a nice result, but I can see maybe I would say it's a problem. I mean, it's depending on what you are aiming for. But right now with this rotation force, all right, all of these spheres, they really try to go to the inside wall. So if you remember, the rotation force is inside of our scene and is rotating around it. And all of these spheres, they have this attempt to go to the inner center of the rotation, okay? This is also happening if you use an attractor force, for example, and you put it here. Then all of the elements, they try to reach the infinite small point, the center of the attractor or the rotation force, okay? And therefore, all of these elements, the spheres, they will go against this inner wall, okay? So you can see all of these spheres. Here they are nice and round, but here they are pushing towards the inside, okay? I mean, it's an interesting look and you could use this definitely to your advantage, but I just want to show you my result, how I solved it. And you can see here, all of them, they are pushed here through the dense area, but here you can see all of them nicely are floating and they don't all lean towards the inner towards the inner wall and give you this very specific look, okay? So I like this one way more with the gentle movement here, some turbulence, just an overall rotation here. And I think that looks just a bit more elegant than this one. So this is more brute force. And I don't want to say that this is not usable because it still looks pretty awesome. But if you want to know how to make your simulation even more gentle and how to make it really nice with the lighting and everything, the materials, and if you want to hear me talk more about different settings and stuff, then I would suggest that you support me on Patreon and watch part 2, okay? But hopefully for now, you guys on YouTube are also happy that I shared some cool techniques with you. And yeah, I just hope that you can make something awesome with it. And see you in the next tutorial. Thank you so much for your time. Bye everyone.